Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. This week, a power suitor wrote us, Nat, and said, "Oh my goodness, I've been in government, public service for 15 years. Now I need to do something new. I want to do something new. Basically, what do I want to be when I grow up?" So I thought we should chat about that. This career crossroads, because it's actually pretty common, eh?
We're off to do a week in Sydney and followed by a week in Auckland. So what I want to do when I grow up is be retired. I'm tired and it's first thing Monday morning and I'm already looking ahead at the next 2 weeks going, wouldn't it be fun to just retire? That feels like a much nicer option. But no, it's actually something we have heard about a bit recently. And I've spoken to a couple of coaches as well, because realistically, you're like 16, you're at school, and suddenly you've got to think about what to do as an adult. And then you go to university or polytech or into your first role, and suddenly you are on a career path, which rightly could look like a jungle gym at times, but you're on a career path that you chose when you were very, very young. And so a lot of times you kind of get to a point and go, would now me have chosen this path? And this sort of sense is it sliding doors of what could be if I'd done something different?
It's funny that you just saying that reminded me of all these insanely huge career and life decisions we make when we are bibis. Everything from traditionally when people might start to choose their life partner to what we want to do when we grow up. We haven't even experienced much of the world at that stage. So I think we see that in a lot of arenas of our life. But for this one in particular, it's interesting that you get narrowed very quickly with your career, don't you? And I think I read that a psychologist calls it the expertise trap, and that expertise and getting really honing our expertise and getting good at something really narrows our vision, and we become so good at that thing. It might be project manager, it might be accountant, it might be teacher, it might be whatever it is, and all of a sudden we forget the other areas of in our life, the other strength areas, adjacent careers that could have been, should have been. Should you have been anything else now? Weren't you going to be like a lawyer or like a criminologist or a veteran? I mean, the most recent other career path, what were you gonna be?
I had a conversation with my mum about this on the weekend because one of my nieces has started high school, and I said, "Does she know what she's gonna be when she grows up?" And my mum was the opposite of narrow down. My mum is a classic generalist, so she was immediately shut that down and was like, "This girl's 14. We are not having conversations about what she wants to do when she grows up. She is still in the stage of exponential thinking and what could I be?" And it does struck me as well in knowing a lot of parents and your kids included. Every school sport, every school topic wants to lock kids in at like 5 now. Like, if you wanna play football, that's all you're allowed to do. If you're gymnastics, if you're swimming, if you're dancing, 25 hours a week. And my mum is the exact opposite. She's like, "You're gonna do a lot of things, and you're gonna be mediocre at them, I don't care, but your job as a kid is to, like, think outside and do lots of different types of things to figure out what you want to do rather than specialize too early." And I just do notice that trend a lot. And again, my mum was amazing. I wanted to be a vet, mainly because I loved animals. So when I was 14, I don't know if she told me to do it or if I did it, but I went and did some work experience at the local vet, and so I just stood in the rooms to get an idea of what being a vet actually looked like, which turned out to be very different from what I expected. And I just remember I was stuck in this tiny hot room and it was quite gross. Like, animals are gross and there's like lots of gross issues. And there was one that this cat came in and had like cat pimples or something. And he's like examining it. And I just felt like suddenly not great. And next minute I had fainted.
Okay.
And then
I
I
have
watched, like, an operation and I was like, "No, no, no, this is not for me." And I actually think that kind of low-key work experience is also missing, is it like you've got this vision of what a vet looked like. I'd bought the sign for, like, how my vet clinic was gonna be called, like, Noah's Ark because I was, like, 12 and it was cute, and I hadn't even thought through what being a vet required, and so I was very pleased I could do that. What about you? Did
Well,
you have
two quick points before I share, and the first is, that you should be thankful that you didn't become a vet because I was at the vet last week with my dog who decided to pee everywhere in complete fear and stress because she was so stressed, and I was like we're, like, wrestling with my dog who's peeing all over the table, and it would have been stressful for the vet and gross, so go you, that's the first point. The second point is that I for those that want to master and do the 10,000 hours of something, go for it because we need champions in this world. And I say that because I've just watched the US Open. I watched Sabalenka, incredible woman, so strong. What a force. Win yesterday and got a check for $5 million. And this morning, Carlos Alcaraz, who won the men's single, equally got a check for 5 million. I love that bonus parody, by the way. Loved seeing that. But they would have had to master and do the 10,000 hours, so no doubt I am still a fan of those.
way more than
I'm still a
10,000?
fan of those committing early, if that is their gift and doing it so that I can be inspired by them, but, probably where, many parents are chasing that, no doubt. But I think, for me, to answer your question, my mom, knew me well and knew my gifts and said to me, I think it was before my gap year, I went to Europe. She said, "When you come home, you should do university, and based on your strengths, you should consider business or journalism." And they were very different. And I came back from Europe really homesick. Journalism was away on the other side of the country. So I was like, well, business it is. But I have often wondered throughout my career, oh man, I see these war correspondents on the TV and these incredible women, Amanpour, for example, doing these hard hitting interviews and getting in front of these people. And I thought, oh, I would have loved that. But what's interesting is, so I know I would have equally have loved that, but they call it the sunk fallacy cost. And if I think about moving my career from what is generally a business world, I suppose, moving to journalism, you kind of go, oh my goodness, I've the return on investment that sorry, that I guess what I'm getting now in terms of in this ecosystem, in this world, and using these strengths versus starting all over again, and the sunk fallacy cost of I surely couldn't start something scratch and beginner mode and all the investment I made over there, that is a real mid-career pickle for many,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
actually, as you said that, I was thinking we're actually in some ways quite good examples of pivoting. Can you think of that Friends quote where he's like, "Pivot!" with the couch, but that you can have skills in your career early on that can be applied across multiple industries and jobs, and as you hone more skills, you can apply them in different ways, and the classic for us is our last company was in the finance industry, and we learned a ton about finance, and I feel like coming from a product and tech background, what that allowed me to do is go across so many different industries and so many different businesses and apply those skills to the things that I really, really care about. So, and I see we have a note about accountants, and I've seen a lot of accountants end up going, where do I want to go into an accounting firm for a while? And then maybe I'm going to find a company that I really believe in and help them grow. So there are ways to, in a very surface level, to not worry about the sunk costs, but instead go, how do I use this investment to be able to move into a slightly different area or in a slightly different industry and apply that immense skill? Like, I don't have to stay as an accountant in X industry. I can go into something else and start to build the skills around that industry. And I think, like professional development, we didn't come from a professional development background, but we had complementary skills or transferable skills that we could bring in and all our experiences and start to build new skills from
I
that
love that you said
foundation.
that. I love that you said that because I did jump sectors and industries a lot in the early stages of my career. And then, of course, we've run startups in incredibly different sectors, solving different problems. And I love that you said that because flexing those muscles, not necessarily a career pivot from, a founder to a teacher or a journalist, but certainly going, I am a beginner in the room. And that's a scary place to be when you go to these. We were ending up in networking functions for finance professionals who'd been in finance their whole lives. And we really saw that as our superpower. We were able to say, we are beginners and we don't know everything. But what that gives us is a really fresh perspective on the sector and what is possible, what should be possible, how to make it better for people, I think was where we were coming from. So I think there's, first of all, the notion of maybe you're not having a massive mid-career pivot going from one thing to another, but where could you flex your muscles in maybe a different sector or a different organization and use that as a superpower of fresh perspectives?
I think, well, my girlfriend has just done a talk at a conference on perspective being a superpower and going into the media industry, which is what she's done, is exactly that. She brought her product skills into the media industry and could use that lack of understanding of the industry to ask questions that felt obvious to her, but maybe hadn't been asked by people who just accepted the status quo. Because we all do. After a while, you adapt to an industry and what is normal feels just the only way, whereas the fresh perspectives coming in can go, why is that the only way? So I think that's a really, I think sometimes when we think about a career change, we think you have to pick up everything and move somewhere else. And to be fair, if I became a vet, well, actually, no, that's true. If I wanted to get back into the vet industry now, I would come at it from probably a tech perspective and go, how could I work in that industry and either create efficiency through like booking systems or help people have better outcomes? So, like for your dog, not having to pee everywhere by going, how could I solve that problem of making a lot nicer experience for pets going into that, going into a vet? And but we often think I have to go do the thing where it's actually you can come in and be in the thing you love, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, we should pivot to pets because it's a billion-dollar industry, and I love pets, and, yeah,
And
there
I
is
love
a friend.
pets.
And I love pets. I don't wanna be in the, room, but, yeah, there's an amazing, friend of ours who we know in the startup ecosystem who launched a company on, well, it was cannabis, isn't it, for pain for animals, and I think they've just got through trials, which is amazing. So, yeah, well, that'll be our next life, or I'm just gonna have, like 10 cocker spaniels, and that'll
I'm
be
gonna be
me too.
retired, so
Yeah, 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 that's right, and actually the interesting thing is, Nat, I was thinking of your age, because how old are you, Nat? 29?
41,
41.
29. Sorry.
Yeah, great, great, great. Okay, well,
I forgot my age.
research
I accidentally just added
research
a few
from
years on.
research from Stanford shows that our priorities start to shift around the age of 40, and we move from kind of this time is infinite and it feels endless to like, "Oh my gosh, it's actually finite." And we narrow our relationships as a result. We start to get really clear on what's important. Possibly, it would be interesting to see divorce statistics around this age, that would be interesting as well. I know perimenopause, they probably skyrocket up, which is, in and around this time, but I think there is a sense of urgency about, like, if not now, when? And I know that sometimes it is something, and self-inflicted is the wrong word, but sometimes you just wake up and that's something that you've got inside of you, time for change, but equally, sometimes people have disruption from restructures or a trauma in their life where they will go, okay, now is the time. So let's now go. We are in this time. This incredible power suitor has written us and said, "What do I want to be when I grow up?" And I just thought we'd go through like tips in terms of like phase 1, the wobble. She is literally in this stage right now, and people, power suitors listening, you might be, equally, you might have friends who are currently in a wobble. Please send this episode to them. And let's move into what we consider like you're recognizing something's going on and you're in this real panic stations for many. Like there's a real sense of like, I've known everything until this point and now I don't know where to go. And options feel limited or limitless, whatever the mindset they're in. But I thought we should let's move into phase 2, which I've just called discovery because this is kind of where we love people to be and to explore. And I just thought we could each give our own individual tips for this is the phase you're in right now. Let's move from freaking out and the wobble to discovery and really take advantage of this time. And so, Nat, any top tips for moving into that phase of life?
I think power suit is one of them. And the reason I say that is because being a beginner and getting in the habit of being a beginner is really, really critical to navigating bigger changes. So, that idea of I am doing professional development to learn how to do one on ones or to learn how to inspire a team through storytelling. You are constantly looking at building new skills. And the reason I say power suit, because it could be anything, is look at AI now. AI is coming and taking over the world, and there are some very different reactions. There's the classic resistance is new. It doesn't fit into my mental model of my job. It makes me feel scared that I'm going to lose my job, all the way through to the people who I think have really embraced being a beginner to the point sometimes that I would call them charlatans, but that they are the people in that really good end who go, this is new. I'm going to learn this thing. I'm going to be terrible at it to start, but I'm going to apply it and play with it. And I feel really comfortable adapting. So, kind of honing that muscle, flexing that muscle of being a beginner and learning stuff. I say charlatans because at the extreme end is all I call them Bitcoin bros who are now and then they were crypto and then they were blockchain and then now they are AI. And it's just like the people who just like constantly figure out how to jump on a new trend. But there's that other group who just genuinely go, this is new and I'm going to hone my skills. And that might lead to new opportunities. Like I may find in these changes and becoming a beginner that I actually find something really cool that I'm good at that I can apply in a different way. But you only get there by honing that muscle of being a beginner and being open-minded about learning new skills all the time, not just going, I do this thing, I do it well, I'm just going to shut down everything else.
And I think we can promise you that it's going to be humbling for many to be a beginner because you have been an expert for so long, and we see that being that fear or discomfort of being a beginner really blocks people from doing interesting things in their lives. So our promise, I suppose, as you navigate being a beginner in trying different things and being in different rooms and is that you will feel humbled because most of the world is there acting and speaking like an expert, even if they're not, and, make you believe that you may feel as though you don't belong. It could be they treat you that way, or it could be the lies that you tell yourself. So I think just be open to feeling a little bit uncomfortable for being a beginner.
Well, that's exactly why I say power split is a good example of, like, small beginnerings of, like, just get in the
No,
habit
we
of,
won't make
like
you feel silly.
yeah, but just learning new little skills all the time and upskilling kind of hones that ability to be a beginner, so when big shifts happen, you're, like, kind of more comfortable with the concept rather than sticking to your knitting and then making a massive shift without really feeling comfortable being a beginner.
Yeah, yeah, great. My top tip is just to give yourself time, like right now, mark between 6 months to 12, maybe even 18 months in your calendars. And I recall a conversation I had before Christmas with someone, and funnily, I bumped into her again a couple weeks ago, but she had been completely burnt out in, I can't remember the role that she was in. She was acting CE somewhere, and she was like, "I am totally burnt out." She'd either been restructured or she quit. It didn't matter. The point was she was like, "I'm regrouping and I need to start something else. I need to find myself." Now, this was in December, and I just remember saying to her on a very quick call, "Or you should just give yourself 3 months to recover because of what you've been through and your burnout." And funnily, I saw her at the 6 month mark a couple weeks ago, and she was like, "You were right." She said, "I could not believe it, but I actually needed 4 months just to get over that experience before reflecting on what was next for me." And funnily, she had just started. She'd been a couple weeks into a new role and seemed really happy and had a better balance, and it was better fit for her. But I just do not underestimate the time that you should give yourself and the kindness to explore. And you're not going to wake up and have, in all likelihood, you're not gonna wake up and know the exact next step. It's gonna either come through opportunistic conversations, through weak ties, through aha moments, but you should give yourself 6 to 18 months for this process and view it as such, this phase.
Yeah, so you basically are figuring out where you want to go and then starting to play with how you might get there. My next thing would be along those same lines, and that is how can I apply the skills I currently have in a new way? And that might look like putting your hand up for opportunities in your current role. I'm going to use the accountant example again, but let's say there's a cool new project at work around AI and it's about implementing a new AI strategy or a tool to help people in your company work better. You're an accountant, you wouldn't normally step into that. You could say, I would like to put my hand up to do whatever it is, the reporting on that project, something that's within your wheelhouse. And during that project, make a point of actually stretching beyond that and being in the meetings and contributing to the meetings where decisions are made, or even just absorbing it. Tapping people on the shoulder and saying, how do you do this thing? And you may find that within that project itself, you're like, oh, there's like 10 different things in here that like I might want to be a project manager, or I might be really interested in how the comms work for this, or actually reporting is a skill that I have from an accounting point of view. Could I apply that to data instead? Because I've got this really detailed mind. So you just start to actually like stretch out using your existing skills as a foundation, stretch out a little bit in those projects and the conversations you have and in the way you might contribute to the work that's being done.
Ooh, I like that. And then an extension of that is to get clear on your current strengths and how they might be used in an adjacent, I don't know if it's like role or arena or career. And this is where I would say use AI for that. For example, I remember speaking to someone in project management and she was amazing. And I said, describe what it looks like to me when you go in and help an organization. She had a portfolio career, which meant that she would go in, she had multiple clients, and she would go in and just get things moving. She would be the partner to often the founder or the CE at that time, and she's like, "I was really good at removing blockers, helping drive process, and just be there a sidekick in terms of just getting things moving so that they could focus on stakeholder management and focus on culture and whatever the things they had to focus on at that time were. And I remember brainstorming with her about where those skills are also useful. And this is where I think if you're in Power Suit, you can certainly join a power match and brainstorm peer coaching session without the big price tag. And you could use AI and just go, this is what I'm really good at. These are my top strengths. Where else could this arena be? And it turns out she figured that she could be a fractional COO. What she was doing was COO type stuff. She still wanted the portfolio career, but that title was so much more rewarding for her and described what she did as opposed to just project manager. And sure enough, that's what she does now. So I think there's something interesting about using the people around you and AI to go, where are these skills also found? And start to think about different titles, roles using those strengths and skills.
Before we jump into what to avoid, I'd like to build on that a little bit more because I've had two incredible wins recently with power suitors who've called because it is a rough time out there. They've been made redundant. So they're looking for a new role. And it's taken a friend in both situations, a friend or colleague has forwarded them a role that sat outside their wheelhouse. So they lined up a 15-minute coaching session with me to go, I don't feel comfortable doing this thing. I don't think I'm the right fit. Clearly there was something deep down in them that they went, I love the idea of doing this, but I feel a bit wobbly. And they both ended up applying for it and they both ended up getting it. And in fact, one of them was on TV recently because it was a massive role and it's incredible and she's breaking new ground in it. So I'm like, incredible outcomes from just going, firstly, I don't think we should wait for friends to send us those roles because sometimes people get busy and they forget to forget to think about us. But think about if you are in one of those sudden shocks of I've lost my job, or if you're looking, think slightly outside what you'd usually do. Don't just default to your current role, sort of building on what you said, Kristen. Think like, what could be an adjacent area? Oh, I may not get it. That's not terrible. To get a no is not terrible. So just push out the boat a little bit and then make sure that you are repositioning your skills because often it is a storytelling exercise. And we say this all the time. You actually have a lot of the skills and experience needed. It just needs a different story around it. Rather than telling the story you've always been telling, tell the story of where you want to be. And that can take a bit of help from friends. Like you say, something like peer coaching can be really helpful, getting expert CV help can be helpful. But you actually have the power to push into a slightly different role or in an industry. That's the other one. I want to be, well, my girlfriend's a great example, a product manager still, but I'm going to go into an entirely different industry. That's a huge step forward, but it's not a crazy step out of where you already sit.
I love that you called out network, and chatting to people because I think that's obviously a do in terms of just get out there and start having coffees and get asking people questions, what they like and don't like about the space they're in, what they're doing. But equally, you said, why not apply for it? And even just getting an interview and approaching it like an informational interview, going, look, chances, maybe even in this economy, are long. They're not great, these odds at the moment, but why not? Just the process of preparing for an interview, getting your personal brand stuff together, and going in and having a conversation, and then learning maybe why you didn't get it, if that's the case, then I just think is equally a huge step forward. So I love that. So what are some things to avoid?
Let's start with the all or nothing trap. And I think sometimes you hear this a bit of like, I've got to quit my job and go and start a new company or do something different. I've never advised anyone ever to do that unless you've gone through basically all these other steps and you've tried a few things and you've applied for a few roles and you positioned yourself and all of that stuff. Otherwise, you are putting yourself in a high stress situation. So I mean, I think it's kind of just don't blow up your life and pivot in one step and assume that's going to happen. Instead, take these other steps and recognize that it might be 2 years, but it's 2 years of updating your CV and applying for roles and stretch projects and asking friends for advice and figuring out what your strengths are. And each step along the way, you'll find you're getting closer and closer rather than I'm just going to go and change complete careers. And I mean, the only caveat to that is if you want to retrain, like I can see huge benefit in going back to school. If you're like, I want to go and learn this different career that I need a qualification for, absolutely. Like,
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
go do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, my thing to avoid is the grass is greener and kind of romanticizing everything but your situation. And I'll just say, Nat, as much as I agree with your like next stage of retirement, I'm like, I saw these shocking stats the other day. Do you know that people who retire like die very quickly? So they just
I
and
won't.
when you retire young, if, that is a thing. You just start to lose your cognitive, your well-being, and so yes, I okay, maybe I'll join you on the beach in Fiji, but
I'll be dumb, but I will be alive. No, I actually think retirement actually, for both of us and for a lot of people, and it's something that actually does tie quite nicely into this conversation, is it might be just I wanna remove the annoying hard stuff. That's all I wanna remove is, like, I just wanna cut some of the extreme hard and focus on the really fun, cool more. Change that balance.
no, that's great, that's great. Okay, any last tips, Nat?
Um No, I think the last one would be don't practice over perfection as per very power suity. And I think that AI analogy and the charlatans one is a good one. There are people who literally just leap in and have rebranded. Like there are what 20,000 AI experts on my LinkedIn feed at any one time that I'm like, how do you know more than me? Like you weren't talking about this a year ago. And yes, granted, a lot of people have really focused on upskilling, but they have really positioned themselves quickly. And I say that because for the rest of us, there's such a great example of just jump in and get started. And if you can reposition yourself as an AI guru over a year, then those of us who want to do a tweak in what we do or move careers, we can do it too. I personally believe we should be authentic and have some skills behind us, but often we actually really do. We have a lot of the skills required and we just need to utilize them in a different way. So don't wait until unless you have to have a qualification, you've got the qualification, you've done 12 courses, you've lined everything up perfectly, apply for the roles, tweak your experiences, rebrand your skills and experiences, all of that stuff, and just get started and see where it takes you. Even if you don't quite know what your pivot is going to be, just get excited and be a beginner and learn some stuff.
I love that, which leads to my quote, which I haven't done in some time, but this was a psychologist. Yeah, 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 no. And it says, we don't think our way into new careers, we act our way into them. And that's very power suit. What is the smallest action you can take today? There is no point being in your head for this 6 to 18 months or whatever it's going to take and getting frustrated and frustrating everyone around you in your head. Like, this is actually what is the very small action that you're going to do is it yeah, whatever. We've named a bunch of them. So, go ahead for those. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to give an example of us at the moment because I think we really do live true to this. We are running 4 in-person events in Auckland, Sydney, Singapore, Wellington. We have not done a series of events like this ever, and, I was having a rant in the car the weekend about just all the things, all the mistakes we've made, all the things that turned out to be way harder than we thought, all the different dependencies and challenges, and we ended up coming to the conclusion of we could have sat and planned this for 6 months and gone, what are all the eventualities? What are all the unintended consequences we need to plan for? What are all the things that could go wrong? Or we could have just done what we did. And the next time around, we now have a baseline of all the things we're going to do differently. But I just thought that was such a great example of, oh, it can be painful to take action and learn along the way. Like, do not get me wrong on that, because it has been a painful couple of weeks as we've realized all of these things. But there is nothing more valuable than just doing it, and that idea of just stopping and planning and over planning and delaying action, you may actually have avoided a couple of things, but you probably wouldn't have known what these things were until you do
Yeah.
it. So, I just feel like
Exactly.
if anyone's feeling a bit like, "Oh, the theory's great, but it doesn't really apply to me," like, we live this true all the time and get ourselves into a couple of pickles, but are constantly taking steps forward. So, it is worth just taking one action and seeing where you end up.
Yes, amazing. And join Powersuit at powersuit.com, everyone. Nothing lost. You might as well just join and get some fresh perspective and start to build your network. So thanks, everyone. And we will catch you next time. Bye.